Hey, welcome everybody to Plaid TV. I'm Shivaun Palmer. It is Wednesday, January 16, 2016. We are broadcasting from the beautiful Southlake Hilton Hotel in Southlake, Texas. So if you see any conventioneers walking by, that's what it is. My guest this week is the wonderful Shannon Thomas. Shannon is the owner of Southlake Christian Counseling. She is a licensed social worker and counselor. And today we're going to be talking about issues relative to women's mental health and quality of life. So Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I've been very excited to get a chance to sit with you and chat and see all the Plaid ladies.
This also, Shannon is one of our featured Plaid Power bloggers, one of the most followed bloggers on our website, and she wrote a fabulous blog called When Mean Girls Grow Up and Join the PTA. Check that out on our site. Okay, but today we're talking about women's issues, specifically mental health, emotional health. So tell us what type of services you offer at Southlake Christian Counseling.
Well, for myself, you bet. For myself, I specialize in psychological abuse and spiritual abuse. Okay. And I have staff members that specialize in other areas, depression, anxiety, family of origin, parenting, and just really anything that you could think of that would be impacting of women's lives.
Absolutely. You know, mental health issues, behavioral health issues are huge in this country. That's why I'm so excited about talking to you today. So let's talk first about psychological health. Why don't you define what that is?
Well, I mean, it can be different things for different people. For me, psychological abuse and the specialty that I have is working with people who have come out of emotionally abusive relationships with somebody who is showing features of narcissism, sociopathy, psychopathy, really those intense mind game relationships.
Okay. I have many friends and women I know that have been in these type of relationships, Shannon, and it really plays with your head. Very, very successful women who tend to lower the bar to be in a relationship, and the consequence of this kind of behavior can be catastrophic. So define what a narcissist is for our audience.
Well, according to the DSM-5, there are very specific criteria that someone would have to meet. They're pretty lengthy, and so, you know, if somebody was interested in knowing more about it, there is a lot online. I'm a huge fan of an organization called Psychopath Free. They have
Psychopath Free.
Yes,
write that down.
Psychopathfree.com is a website I really like. There's a lot online. There's a lot on Pinterest, actually. If you go on Pinterest and put in narcissist, there will be some very succinct, easy to understand
bullet points about
the behaviors, about what's the difference between a narcissist, what's the difference between a psychopath, and then everything in between.
Okay. And then you also talk about spiritual health, so talk about that as well.
I specialize in spiritual abuse because there is a predomination with, is that a word?
It works for me, predomination.
There's a lot of, well, if you don't know if it's a word, you just make up another one, right?
That's right.
But
that's right.
There is a real prominent feature within church culture where women in particular can be spiritually abused by putting on a lot of shoulds and should nots and not holding people accountable for their actions. And a lot of the insidiousness of psychological abuse gets completely missed by church staff. So if we have an abuser and they're making it sound like it's the victim's problem and everything's going wrong, then we really have to take a step back and look at how Scripture can be used to abuse people.
Scripture to be used how to abuse people, so it's almost like a control type thing.
Oh, absolutely. Scripture on forgiveness is often used to keep people in toxic relationships. Scripture on the roles of men and women are often used. I mean, they will take anything and everything and twist it around.
You know, it's interesting you said that, because I've talked to many of friends and acquaintances that are very involved in their church community, yet they talk about these hypocritical type behaviors among not only their peers but you know, the higher ups. So this is definitely a very interesting area.
Absolutely. And I read this article the other day that talked about the ghosts in the church for women, and how these very sexist embedded belief systems are still alive and well right now.
To actually suppress women?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
even
absolutely.
In 2016?
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it may not be preached from the pulpit, but it is the undercurrent of the attitude for sure. And not all churches. Some churches are amazing, but we have to really take a look at, we'll know a good tree by its fruit. What's the fruit of the church? What's the fruit of the relationship? If it's not bearing good fruit, that has to be looked at.
Right. Let's talk about, I know you have a variety of clients, and we're talking about women specifically today. So talk about the major areas that you're treating. You said you treat people with PTSD and spiritual and psychological abuse. What are you finding that are the threads or the scenarios that you find similar with all of these women you're counseling?
It's a great question because I just have really been doing this for quite some time and have been able to watch some of the patterns. I actually have a research project going on right now.
Yeah, tell us about that project just briefly.
Yeah, it's great. I'm affiliated with TCU as a field instructor. I approached their school of social work, asked them if they had a professor that would be able to help me, and Dr. Aisha John was very kind and has stepped in and helped me. So we have a IRB approved, which is an institutional review board approved through TCU research project that is online.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, it's great, and the response has been incredible. In about 4 days, we had over 500 responses. So I'm looking for patterns in psychological abuse. It's a narrative study, and just looking for what I think I've seen in my practice. I wanted to know if it was also happening in the larger population.
In the general population.
Right.
So can you share with us what the patterns are with the clients that you've seen?
Absolutely. So one of the patterns that has come out is that many survivors of psychological abuse are very introspective. They're willing to step back and take a look and say, is this something that I need to be, looking at? Are there changes I need to make? So an abuser is very much able to exploit that by saying, you're doing this, you're doing that. And a lot of survivors will step back and say, maybe I am. Maybe I need to change. Maybe I need to look at things differently. And because of that, it's being exploited.
It's unbelievable.
Because the abuser never steps back and is introspective.
And that's part of a narcissistic personality, or somebody that
Yes.
blames others for their behavior.
Narcissistic personality, antisocial personality, yes.
Okay. So when you're counseling these women, have many women through your counseling decided to leave abusive relationships or change their life, and what's resulted as a result?
Sure, that was one of the most interesting numbers that we've gotten so far from the study. Is literally 50% are still in contact with their abuser, and 50% are not. And so we cannot, as the psychological abuse recovery community, insist that everybody leave, because there's a lot of people not leaving, and it's depending on whether it's a romantic relationship, family relationship, at work. There are a variety of reasons people choose
still
to
connect
stay.
to that abusive relationship. Are financial considerations part of the...
Absolutely, but there are definite things that people can do to make themselves psychologically safer if they are staying in a relationship, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's romantic.
Okay, so let's talk about the factors for work, family, or romance to stay psychologically healthy. Give it to us in bullet points.
Oh, it would be very individual. It depends on, the dynamics. It depends on the situation. But in general, I think having a healthy detachment, recognizing that the other person's viewpoint that says the sky's purple or the sky's green does not mean the sky is green. The sky is blue, and it will stay blue. And so survivors that won't get sort of sucked up into that vortex of confusion, they are able to stay a lot better. And it's on a spectrum. Some people that are in a relationship with a narcissist is very different than being in a relationship with a psychopath. So there is a wide range of behaviors of abuse as well.
Okay, I think we touched on the narcissist. Talk just briefly about the characteristics of a psychopath.
Those tend to be much more criminal in nature. Doesn't have to be. Those are also very calculated to harm other people. Something in the middle is a sociopath, which they derive entertainment from seeing other people harmed. There's quite a lot going out there that the thing is if you don't know, if you've never been in contact with somebody, then you don't think those things exist.
Right.
And that's one of the journeys that a survivor has to go on, is coming to a realization that these kind of people do exist.
Absolutely. And I interviewed a woman years ago about the warning signs of abusive relationships. She wrote a book called The Red Flag Man. And just being able to educate women in particular about the warning signs for healthy and not so healthy relationships is critical.
Right. Absolutely. And that was part of the study that I wanted to do, is because there's very specific patterns of behavior. We've, in the recovery community, have sort of sadly joked that there has to be a manual out there somewhere. Absolutely. Because abusers really do repeat the same patterns, and they're not related to each other. It's just sort of sadly how human nature is. Yeah. But there are ways for some people to stay and stay safe. There are other ways that people cannot, and they must get
must
help.
extrapolate, get out of the,
Absolutely.
not only from a physical safety standpoint, for mentally, psychological.
Yes, and a lot of these psychologically abusive relationships don't involve physical abuse at all.
Yeah.
They look very good on the outside.
But the psychological abuse many times can be just as painful, or more painful than the physical.
Oh, absolutely, because, and I say absolutely all the time because it's so strong of a word, but 100% correct, is that it's very, very hidden. And a lot of times with psychological abuse, there isn't something tangible to point to say, this is what this person's doing to me. And so oftentimes when clients come in, they think they are the problem.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
And they're very convinced they are the problem.
Right. Well, again, we could talk for hours, but we're told that if we go over 10 minutes, you guys out there in Land won't watch these videos. Shen, let's just wrap this up. I know that you're a proponent of Plaid for Women's campaign, No
Yes.
Mean Girls campaign.
Yes.
This lovely lady wrote a blog that went through the roof. It was titled, When Mean Girls Grow Up and Join the PTA. Why don't you just briefly tell us why that topic and the kind of response we got on this? This is amazing.
That was very personal. I was the vice president of the PTA for 91-ish days. Until
Emphasis on ish.
Ish, yes, until the therapist became the mean girl, and I realized that in the environment we're in, we definitely take on those traits. And it was toxic and ugly, and I had to just get myself out so I could get my self-esteem back, and also not involve myself with women who, you know, were choosing to behave in a way that I just absolutely can't support.
Right. Tear each other down, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's why we're so glad she's, through her personal story, sharing that message of no mean girls allowed at
No
Plaid.
mean girls.
So
No.
Shannon Thomas, it's been an absolute pleasure having this lovely lady. You can, I'm going to let her tell you about her contact information. You can also read her fantastic content on plaidforwomen.com. And Shannon, please tell our audience if they want to get more information or possibly have a consultation with you, how do they reach you?
Well, first I just want to say how much I appreciate everything that you guys have done at Plaid for Women. It is amazing.
Thank you
It
very
is
much.
wonderful to be able to have a place that I can send people to get education, to get support as far as online, to read great blogs, to go to great events, and I'm just really very, very happy for all the efforts you guys have put out.
No, we
because
appreciate that very
it's making a huge
much.
difference. To reach me, the best way is southlakecounseling.org.
Southlakecounseling.org. Okay.
And from there, you can find my Facebook page. It's Southlake Counseling. I'm on Facebook, on Twitter. You can find me on the Plaid blog.
She's amazing. She's a social media diva, so you can find Shannon Thomas. Shannon, do you want to just close with a quote or a person who's been inspirational in your life that, you know, a takeaway that we can leave our audience with?
Oh, there's a lot. I am part of a wonderful mastermind group of other women, and it is wonderful to be in a group of women who love you, who support you,
Unconditionally.
who build you up, who are excited, who are your cheerleaders. And I didn't have that before for some time, and so finding Plaid for Women, finding my mastermind group of other women business owners has been fantastic, and I would encourage everybody to keep looking, to keep finding your people and your women,
Your tribe.
who will be there for you. It's very, very wonderful.
Wonderful. Shannon Thomas, thank you so much.
Thank
It's been
you.
an absolute pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Shivaun Palmer with the Plaid Girls on January 16, 2016. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye. No mean girls. No
Nope.
mean girls.
Nope.